The Marine Tech Expo is going virtual this year. Hello and welcome to Marine Tech Expo 2021. I'm Justin Lee and I'm delighted to be your host for this year's event. We're in Britain's ocean city of Plymouth, which has a long history of seafaring and maritime innovation. Today it's home to some of the leading scientists, engineers and marine businesses. And during the course of this conference, we'll be bringing some of those experts together to share their knowledge and give us an insight into some of the world-leading projects they're working on. The theme of the Expo today is autonomy and how it can be used in marine science and the commercial world. Day 2 will focus on sustainability, including efforts to make the maritime sector greener, the latest developments in wind and tidal energy, and our impact on the ocean environment. We want you, our delegates, to feel as much a part of this year's Expo as possible, so please submit your questions for each of the speakers in the comments section of the YouTube channel. And we'll answer as many of your questions as possible with our guests live at the end of each of the Expo sessions. Now, to help us officially launch Marine Tech Expo 2021, here's the leader of Plymouth City Council, Councillor Nick Kelly.
Good morning to all of our attendees today. My name is Nick Kelly and I'm the leader of Plymouth City Council. Thank you for joining us, virtually of course, in Plymouth, Britain's ocean city, for the 3rd Marine Tech Expo. My role today is to welcome you to our amazing city for what should prove to be a fascinating event showcasing what Plymouth and the southwest of England really has to offer to the future of the marine and maritime industry. I'm a Plymouthian born and bred and very proud of that fact. I believe that as a city of 260,000 people, we punch way above our weight. Our issue has always been that we have never really shone a spotlight on ourselves and everything we are doing here. But this does seem to finally be changing. And the city now more than ever is celebrating the brilliant and amazing things that we have and are achieving. This event really is a prime example of that. Plymouth has always had strong links to the sea. I'm sure it won't be news to any of you that we're home to the largest naval base in Western Europe. And I certainly don't need to mention that the city has historically been seen by the Navy as one of the most strategic defence assets in its arsenal. Positioned on the south coast of England, with the natural harbour of Plymouth Sound providing a sheltered base for its fleet and access to deep water, it's no wonder the importance of the naval base here in Plymouth continues to be recognised. And indeed, it is these natural assets that make Plymouth a prime location to develop, test and prove marine technology. But we're much more than just a naval city. The city has also played a key role in some of the most famous ocean-borne voyages in history. You might be aware that the Mayflower set sail from Plymouth in 1620 as the Pilgrims set out to establish the New World. That's just one example, but our fingerprints as a city stretch far and wide to the point that there are now 52 places across the globe called Plymouth. We are, of course, the original and still the best in my humble opinion. We have also hosted a myriad of scientists and explorers who stopped by on their quests to bring new knowledge to the world, including Charles Darwin, before his famous expedition to the Galapagos, in which he found evidence of evolution sparking the penning of the famous and world-changing On the Origin of the Species text. Adventure, discovery and innovation are therefore very much part of the DNA of Plymouth. Each aspect has played a role in creating a city that looks ahead at the horizon and the future to ask the questions, what next and where do we go from here? To put it simply, our links with the ocean have formed the basis of our history, and we hope that today you will discover that this is also the foundation of our future. Over the next few hours, you are going to hear from some leading tech-based marine companies about how their innovations are helping to navigate the way to a better future for everyone in the world. With truly game-changing technology, from the use of autonomous vessels in defence through to their use in the collection and application of vast quantities of data. And in addition to hearing all about the tech that is being developed here, you will also have the opportunity to witness a variety of autonomous platforms executing manoeuvres and operating in different environments and sea states, including from within Plymouth's Smart Sound test range. These demonstrations will give you a flavour of the capabilities of some of the most innovative technologies in the world. It would be remiss of me if I didn't take a moment now to quickly acknowledge that we are doing the event this year virtually, which was not our aim, but proves we are innovative to make things happen. We, the city, would have loved to welcome you all to Plymouth for this event, so you could see for yourselves not just the high-tech innovation on show today and tomorrow, but also the wider offer of the city, its natural beauty and the vibrant cultural offer. That being said, I'm certain you will all enjoy this virtual experience, and I'd encourage you all to find an excuse to visit us here in Plymouth once we get back to some semblance of normality. Thank you, and have a fantastic Marine Tech Expo.
Thank you to Councillor Nick Kelly from Plymouth City Council. Also helping us get things underway this year is Sarah Kenny, who's the Chief Executive of the BMT Group and Chair of Maritime UK, the collective voice for the UK's maritime industries.
Good morning and welcome to the Marine Tech Expo 2021. I am Sarah Kenny, the Chief Executive of BMT Group and the Chair of Maritime UK, the umbrella trade body for the UK marine and maritime sector. It is great to see that so many of you have been able to join us today. This event is truly a great example of a collective effort from representatives of industry, the public sector, and research partners to deliver what promises to be a productive, thought-provoking event with a fascinating programme and some fantastic speakers. I would like to start today by wishing you and all of your families well. I am sure that, like me, you look forward to the resumption of something approaching normal for important events like this. Although that said, especially given our theme for day 2, I would prefer to see us reach into the best that technology has to offer to properly embrace and enable live virtual working, given what we all need to achieve on sustainability. Reflecting both as the Chief Executive of an international maritime science and engineering consulting firm and as the Chair of Maritime UK, I have to say that the experience of the past 12 months of how we as a collective of government, industrialists, academics, media and society have responded to the global pandemic has caused me to pause and consider the UK marine and maritime strategic agenda overall, and what our approach should be from here on out with regards to skills, sustainability, technology and innovation, competitiveness, growth, policy and regulation, our brand, and the true level of collaboration that we need to succeed. The size of the prize when we get this right is significant, with the global maritime economy due to almost double in size to $3 trillion by 2030. And we start from a position of real strength as a maritime nation with a rich heritage of maritime business and trade success, and of course, innovation. Back in 2019, the UK government published Maritime 2050, which set out for the first time a truly pan-industry government strategy for the UK marine and maritime sector, covering all of the aspects that I have just mentioned. The priorities and the roadmaps contained within Maritime 2050 clearly set out a route to a transformed sector, and I reflect that much has been achieved in the past 2 years against the short-term recommendations of the plan. For example, the work on regional development and growth is exemplified here in Plymouth through the leading work on maritime autonomy here, including research into systems, data collection, analytics, and exploitation techniques, and the launch of the Smart Sound testing and development range facilities, which offer a unique environment for experimentation and collaboration. Furthermore, I am delighted to see the Freeport Status Award for Plymouth. I know that the ambition and the drive here is high and that there will be much, much more to come. Beyond these superb local achievements, the UK government Build Back Better strategy, the launch of the integrated review, the Defence, Security and Industrial Strategy, and soon to be launched refreshed National Shipbuilding Strategy all signal a significant renaissance in demand for marine and maritime skills, services, facilities and capabilities. And this plays directly into the UK's wealth of expertise and experience in the marine and maritime sector. And of course, I can't talk about the last year without mentioning the pandemic. The marine and maritime sector, as many others, was already facing a period of profound change prior to the COVID outbreak. We are now arguably seeing an acceleration of that change with new and rapidly changing geopolitical imperatives, nationalist and popularist political agendas, the refocusing very rapidly in some cases of investments, the impact of rapidly emerging technologies, the changing nature of trade relationships between and within nations, significant changes to established supply chains, and a clear emergence of demographic and societal change, which is driving demand for new ways of working and thinking and developing, therefore, new business models. On that technology point, I don't think anyone in this virtual room could argue that there hasn't been somewhat of a digital explosion in our business and home lives in the past 18 months. From a marine and maritime perspective, both the pandemic and Brexit have acted to accelerate digital adoption, especially on the themes of regulatory compliance, data handling and analysis, and the need to adopt rapidly to remote working, whilst also looking after the well-being of our seafarers. In the post-pandemic era, perhaps the challenge may be integrating these solutions, adopted in a rush, into routine operations before the progress we've made gets lost in the desire to return to normal. Looking ahead, it is clear that the shipping sector has ambitious plans to apply digital technology to further transform, especially in the areas of smart navigation and vessel performance. It is also clear, and you will see this for yourself at this event, that there is both high ambition and rapidly increasing technology readiness of remotely operated and autonomous marine survey, sensing and surveillance technology. The potential offered by these technologies for reach, persistence and timely access to information and data at a distance is both considerable and exciting. Aside from the clear use of digital to achieve regulatory compliance, to drive much needed operational efficiency, and to make improvements in safety and crew experience, developments in digital and autonomy potentially offer a real leg up to our sector in the understanding of our seabed and marine environment, and in turn, therefore, offer benefits to our understanding of sustainability. The pandemic has coincided undoubtedly with a heightened awareness of environmental risk and sustainability, and this is translating into real action in a way not seen before. Regulators such as IMO had already set what looked like a progressive challenge to achieve decarbonisation by 2050. And the 2019 Clean Maritime Plan in the UK was clear on our route to net zero. However, in the past few weeks, the global narrative has shifted even further, with China and the USA making bold statements about their environmental goals. And here in the UK, our Prime Minister has just committed to including shipping emissions within the UK's net zero targets. the decarbonisation of the maritime sector through the introduction of new fuel alternatives, more efficient technologies, and green infrastructure will be critical. While shipping could be argued to be the most carbon efficient way to transport goods, that argument simply doesn't hold up as an excuse to do nothing. The sheer volume of maritime traffic means that our emissions are significant, and steps must be taken across the entire maritime ecosystem to ensure a cleaner, greener future for all of us. So, digital, environment, and sustainability have arrived and are here to stay, and must rightly be key tenets of our future, both operationally inside businesses and in terms of what we offer to our clients and to society overall. And on top of that, what we are also witnessing is a real change of the pace that this change is expected to be driven with. And on that note about pace, I think we have an opportunity here as the UK marine and maritime sector and the businesses within it. I believe that for all of the current effects and the inevitable ongoing impacts of the pandemic, perhaps two positive outcomes in a post-COVID maritime world are the increased societal awareness of both the role and the importance of our sector. So as a sector then, we need to innovate in the way in which we design and develop solutions, making use of emerging technologies which can aid collaboration and accelerate product development, and adopt different approaches to supply chain and product integration to accelerate exploitation of technology, driving efficiency and productivity, reducing costs, importantly, attracting and retaining a skilled workforce for our future, meeting our environmental commitments, and ensuring that safety and regulatory aspects are all addressed along the way. The level of ambition and technology-led innovation that you will see in this two-day conference tells me that as a sector, and with government and policy support, we already recognise that we cannot stand still, which is great news. But as I have highlighted, technology is only one part of this picture. And as technology-driven disruption increasingly impacts our sector in a post-COVID world, we are faced with the hard business reality of maintaining productive, continuous, safe and efficient marine and maritime operations, at the same time as needing to make these perhaps courageous moves towards a different future, along with all of the associated investment as part of a truly global industry where some others may not adopt at pace or at all, and of course, some may go faster than us. So we need to recognise that we're presented with what I am sure with hindsight will be a unique window of opportunity and time to really transform our sector. We must both face and embrace the reality that there is a huge opportunity here as part of a truly global industry. Technology is and will continue to play a pivotal role, but perhaps the real challenge and opportunity is that of collaborative and possibly courageous leadership, and perhaps that's the biggest priority for us all. In closing, I am delighted to be part of the Marine Tech Expo 2021 in Plymouth. I truly believe that this event is an opportunity to engage with some of the leading minds in the field and to facilitate the necessary conversations about the actions that are needed to ensure that we all make the most of what digital technologies can offer and achieve a greener and more sustainable future for all. Enjoy the event, ask questions, and get involved. With that, I will hand back to the studio. Thank you.
Our thanks to Sarah Kenny. Our first presentation for this year's Marine Tech Expo is from Richard May, Head of Oceans Gate and Marine Investment for Plymouth City Council. Richard led the successful bid for Plymouth and South Devon Freezone, which will provide significant impetus for the marine and affiliated sectors. Richard's excited to be at the helm of the marine industry in Plymouth, Britain's ocean city.
Well, thank you so much for attending the Marine Tech Expo. And today I really want to talk to you about three key things that's happening in Plymouth. That's Ocean Futures, Smart Sound Plymouth, and the Plymouth and South Devon Freezone. before I do though, I mean, what's really clear is that marine tech the cluster in the southwest has been continually growing, and in Plymouth we've got the Marine Business Technology Centre, we've got Turnchapel, we've got Oceansgate, and we've got so many things that are happening in terms of key businesses within Plymouth, such that we've now created quite a significant platform for technology advancement in the marine maritime sector. And I think with that in mind, about 80 different businesses came together at the beginning of 2020, and we formed effectively what is called now Ocean Futures. It's a global centre of excellence for testing, development, manufacturing of high-tech marine solutions. And when we thought about it, we sort of got into the sort of detail of what are we really truly strong at, not just on a national basis, but also on an international basis. And when we distilled those down, we arrived at marine autonomy as a key focus, things to do with digital ocean, so solutions in the ocean, and also maritime net zero capabilities. And so those are our three focuses: marine autonomy, digital ocean, maritime net zero. And when we think of it, we don't just think about what's happening in Plymouth. We think across the whole southwest peninsula, and want to bring on effectively all our technology advancements in the region centered around Plymouth. And so as we brought together the key players, we've ended up with partners that are triple helix. So they represent the industry, research, and local government and central government, making sure that we've got the necessary strengths in all those different areas. And the likes of Babcock, Thales, M-Subs, and some other significant players within our FAST cluster, which you'll hear about more later today. These are all the sort of industry players that are at the prime, at the cutting edge of these areas. And then in terms of research, the universities of Exeter and Plymouth, the UKHO, the UK Hydrographic Office, the Met Office, the National Physical Laboratory Centre, which is part of BASE, that look at the different measurements, etc., for the new things of tomorrow, like autonomy, and also some significant players in terms of government departments like Innovate UK, etc., all coming together to establish Ocean Futures. And so therefore it's no longer just a matter of us doing things parochially within the southwest. We are creating effectively an international presence here, and really showing the UK strengths in terms of the maritime sector. And along with us is the Maritime UK, and specifically Maritime UK Southwest, who's all part and a leading part of Ocean Futures. So this year we'll be developing a prospectus which we're hopefully to launch during this maritime the Marine Tech Expo, and we're also working towards creating projects to look for funding from central government, co-designing with them what those projects should be, and they are sort of industry-led acceleration projects within those technical areas of focus that we talked about, but also research-led enabling tech infrastructure projects to make sure that we've got the sort of bedrock of testing facilities and to bring on those new solutions of tomorrow. So, if anyone who wants to know more about Ocean Futures should contact me and to get involved. It's a growing thing. So that brings me on to Smart Sound Plymouth, well known by many, and it's a well-established sort of test lab for marine science. It's well instrumented, and it's got some new assets which came from the Marine Business Technology Centre, autonomous vessel there with its various sensors and capability, a new autonomous buoy that's being deployed currently out into Smart Sound. But it's now evolved very much into a proving ground for applications, specifically autonomy, cyber ship type technologies, and those digital solutions that are effectively looking at the different workflows, that maritime workflows, and how we digitize them for tomorrow's connected oceans. And that sort of brings us on to our latest piece of investment, which is about to go live, Smart Sound Connect, which means that the whole sort of harbour basin of Plymouth becomes 4G enabled, and two very significant areas become 5G enabled. I think it's a UK first in terms of having 5G over the ocean waters, so that we can do some proper testing of autonomous solutions and other solutions within a 5G connected water space. And in addition to that, we've got an offshore advanced communication network, which covers a significant amount of smart sound coastal waters. And as we bring those on live, we've already listed about 25 plus use case applications. And I think what's been really exciting is the fact that it's not just multinational primes that have come forward to leverage the new Smart Sound Connect, but it's also startups and early stage businesses that have some very significant offers within sort of DigitalOcean type technology. So do get involved in that and contact James Fishwick or Rob Watson if you want to. You have a use case that you want to bring on. At the moment, it's an offer which is effectively for 12 months from August. And it's a free trialing testing area. So please do get in touch. When you think about these two things, so Ocean Futures and Smart Sound, which is part obviously of Ocean Futures, it's a key asset. We've got a marine innovation hotbed already. It's already very significant, certainly within the UK and in the key areas where we partner with others overseas. And then along comes the government asking for bids for Freeport designation. And it was very clear to us that we had a strong case around the marine innovation. And one of the key requirements for government was to build innovation hotbeds. So we already had one sort of oven ready, as they say. And so putting that to the government, along with some expansion sites for increasing our manufacturing capability, increasing our ability to bring on those new skills and technology and create new employment within the sector and also in defence sector and also reach out to the space sector as well. So bringing those three key sectors together, we have a particular powerhouse that's forming in the southwest around this new Plymouth and South Devon Freezone. And I think that one of the real massive benefits of the Freeport status is that we're able to work more closely with the regulators, what is called the Freeport Regulatory Engagement Network, and that allows us to deregulate within our test beds certain types of areas of regulation around certain technologies, so for instance, say autonomy or any other areas that we want to trial, and work with the regulators to effectively redraft and form the regulations for tomorrow as we look at the advancements of technology. Now, you see, the Freeport will give businesses effectively various tax incentives. But I think that this particular one of being able to deregulate and create the regulations of tomorrow is a fantastic strength for us, a really good proposition, not just nationally, but internationally, because many of our standards, many of our regulations are internationally adopted. And so we have a chance to lead in terms of regulating in these new areas of focus around autonomy and digital solutions at sea, and also in terms of clean propulsion systems. So I think that the Freezone now really puts a spotlight on Plymouth and South Devon and also the region of the southwest. As part of the Freezone, there is the South Yard site, so Ocean's Gate, as well as Princess Yachts plot and various other plots that are part of the MOD, but made available to their contractors like Babcock, and also the two sites on the A38, Langage Energy Park and the Sherford Employment area, which brings on around about 110 hectares of new employment land. So it's a significant opportunity for us to get new investment into the southwest, specifically in the three sectors of marine, defence and space, and the combinations thereof. So suddenly we're now in a transformational game, but we're raising ourselves now to a truly international super cluster for those sectors that I've just mentioned. And so we really want your help to evangelize this, to reach out to your partners that you work with, to highlight what's available now in the UK and in the southwest, and for us to really deliver on these goals that we've set going forward. So do get in touch with me or any one of the team so that we can have those discussions going forward. Again, thank you for coming to the Marine Tech Expo this year, and I really do hope that in the future years we'll be able to see each other face to face and start to actually look at those new solutions in person. Many thanks.
Thank you, Richard. Our next guest speaker is Brigadier Dan Cheeseman. Dan became the RN's lead for information warfare development and in 2018 was appointed as the inaugural Chief Technology Officer to the Navy Board, where he has oversight of the Royal Navy's technological needs across digital, autonomy, lethality and agility.
It's my huge pleasure to be able to talk to you, the MTE, this morning about the subject of the Royal Navy and the pace of change in all things technology and how we live and survive in an exponential world, what we're up to and how we might work with you better. 3 parts of my presentation that will cover 20 minutes. The state of the art, why we think we need to change, what are the threats, the opportunities, the implications for the Royal Navy. What have we done about it so far across agility, digital, autonomy and lethality, 4 main strands of effort. And where are we going next and what are the exciting stuff? What are the initiatives we've got going on across creating new technologies, scaling technologies into the hands of the warfighter, collaboration with a cross-functional grouping of people to go faster, cheaper, better, and where are the new techs that we're looking at to invest in next. We have done reasonably well out of the integrated review. There is a significant up arrow in terms of investment in the Royal Navy. We are in something of a purple patch, very exciting. 1.7 billion pounds a year of shipbuilding, more in submarines, going forward over the next 10 years is a significant investment in the maritime and something that UK industry and global industry can take heart from if you are involved in this work. What a wordy slide, but I have tried to summarize what the Royal Navy is and how it is embracing and engaging with technology. So forgive me for those of you who are very familiar with who the Royal Navy are. I will just skim through some of these to try and get everybody on the same page at the start. So we are now a £7 billion business. We're growing to £8.8 billion over the next 10 years, 35,000 employees if you include the civil service elements critically as part of One Navy. We are a no-fail organisation, of course, as a military, as they all are, 24/7, 365. We're not on exercise and then back again, or on a war and back again. We are constantly out and about doing things in the Royal Navy. Of course, we operate above, on, below the water and in the littoral and on land. And so we are a small version of any defence force, but in one service. That presents opportunities to go faster. We're small, we're flexible, but also we're hugely challenged with the amount of different things that we need to nail. We're in the most extreme environments that you could possibly hope to operate in, not just sea and undersea and in the air, but also Arctic and desert and jungle, where we are UK leads in all of those fields. We are in multiple hybrid wars already. We are in this sub-threshold space. It's very different, or at least we're now more obviously aware of it than we were before. So we don't know who we're going to fight tonight. Tomorrow is even less certain, but we certainly know that we are in a competition and we need to play our part in that. We save and take life. We are in the business of the controlled application of extreme violence. That makes change really, really hard. It's not that we're not led by some incredibly intelligent, modern thinkers such as First Sea Lord and the rest of the Royal Navy senior leadership and in defence. It's just that sunsets and sun rises and deciding when we should be betting on new technologies is incredibly difficult in the military context. No different from many industries, but we have got a scope and a scale of a problem that we're trying to solve that we find we'll always find difficult to get our arms around. But we need to get over ourselves because it is an exponential world and threats are rising at a rate that is, we believe, unprecedented. Here are our transformation priorities: continuous at sea deterrence, so the nuclear button at all points, delivered by the Royal Navy, and overall operational advantage in the North Atlantic. 5th Gen carrier strike, 5th Gen global littoral strike, the UK Commando Force, global persistence, and also because it's so important, tech and innovation, because without that, we are really stuck. We are unique in the fact that we are nuclear, conventional, and novel, both powered and armed. We are embracing agile methodologies, which I'll come back to. We are trying to go software out, not hardware in. Hopefully you will welcome that move via something called the Nelson Data Platform, our own tech stack. We are getting after autonomy in a big way, and we have some accelerators. They are Nelson in Portsmouth, who do AI, Marworks in Plymouth, who do command and control and agile modern networks, and Navy X, who do robot wars, who are soon to be living in Portland. I'll come to that in a moment. So there's a lot going on. I won't go through the entire procurement list, type 36, type 31s, type 26s, type 32s. We have the 2 aircraft carriers, we've got crow's nest helicopters, F-35s, etc. The list goes significantly on at the moment. But nevertheless, we are challenged by some significant new things, new players in the international space. Novel weapons, there are hypersonic weapons on here, there are supersonic weapons on here, there are rail guns on here, there are cheap knockoff versions of our bits of autonomy, there are significantly weaponized variants of autonomy across land, on the water, under the water, and in the air. There's no time for UK defence or Western defence to pontificate about what we might or might not be doing in the face of such change going on. But of course, technology is racing on, and it's not a defence lead as it used to be. It is a civilian tech lead for the majority of things that we might want to go after. So we're very interested in dual use technologies, as well as military-only technologies these days, aren't we? But the good news is technology should be able to answer all of our problems if we can just understand what our problems are and prioritize and act appropriately. I'm not about to go into a massive SpaceX lecture, but Elon and team doing this into this is a win as far as they're concerned. Fast fail, show don't tell, learn by doing, iterate, stable interfaces between the different parts of a different team, same as on a Tesla, same as with a Starship rocket, leads you to a rapid development of game-changing technology. And we in the Royal Navy now understand this much better than we ever have before, and we are committed to moving into a beyond budgeting approach to developing new technologies. Not £1-2 million super project that we're scared of losing, but a £20 million hopper of money to go after iterating until we've got something that is geostrategically relevant. One of the key strands to enable that is our embrace of agility with a capital A. We've been looking at industry. We have codified that into the Royal Navy Agility Playbook. We are now scaling this, not just inside Royal Navy HQ, but also now across the whole 35,000 person organization. We are looking to be 25 to 50% agile across the Royal Navy inside this financial year. That means lots of things to lots of people, but we are going after problem-led and tech-led unashamedly, where it's obvious, using zoom out, zoom in thinking. We care about the vision, but we're not going to polish the vision for too long, and we're certainly not going to do a waterfall analysis 15 years backward from achieving that vision. We're going to do the vision, and then we're going to zoom in, and we're going to get on and do things. And our mantra is 6 to 9 months, not 6 to 9 years. If anybody comes to the Exco with a 6 to 9 year plan, they'll get some attention, but quickly they'll be asked, what's your 6 to 9 month MVP then? And if they haven't got an answer to that, they're likely to be asked to go away and come back and try harder. Tech is moving so fast, the world is moving so fast, anything less than that is an abrogation of responsibility for us to protect and save life and do our job. So we are scaling agile techniques, notably Scrum and Lean Startup, at scale across the Royal Navy. I won't go through the whole organogram, but just suffice to say is that increasingly we are now able to talk with you about 2 stars being chief product owners, 1 stars chief product owners, OF5s being product owners. They're all supported by Scrum Masters or Scrum Masters or Scrum Masters. Slightly clunky term, I know, but it makes sense. It's easy to learn. It's a minimum viable bureaucracy. We have transparent backlogs. We've got ruthless levels of prioritization. We've got sprint cadence cycles of 2 weeks spreading out across the whole Navy. And we are getting up to cross-functional teams to get things from to do, through doing, to done in a focused sprinting manner. Very different from traditional waterfall approaches whereby we pontificate a particular project over a 10, 15, 20-year lifetime. There is a blend of government working and waterfall portfolio management to be done with these techniques. We are after it, so we're not completely dumping the old way of doing things, nor would we be allowed to. The Royal Navy is pathfinding in this across defence, but we are setting the pace for the rest of people to follow, and we believe it is scaling elsewhere now as well. For us, it has proved hugely viable. And when you are offering to us in terms of engagements on an industrial level, if you are not offering products that are delivered via an agile methodology, then you will struggle to get our attention, would be a message I would like to offer you. So we are trying to keep our minds fully open. Here is some envisioning, some future war options of what technology might or might not do for us or the enemy, whoever that might be, just to keep people's minds fresh. And we're trying to mobilize our crowd by getting this out to the lowest levels so that people can really try and understand and embrace the opportunities before us. I mentioned Nelson. This is our AI accelerator. We now have our own Nelson data platform, our tech stack. It's an official, sensitive, secret, and top secret. We are building our own APIs and developing our own app house for things such as Nelson anti-air warfare, Nelson anti-submarine warfare, Nelson logistics, Nelson cyber defense, Nelson robot wars. You get the idea. Kubernetes, open architecture, standardized interfaces between the various products. And there is, in effect, one digital ring to rule them all in the Royal Navy, and it is called Nelson. And if you want to sell us things, then you should be aware of this. It's live. It's been live now for a few years. Defender is one of the early examples where we have deployed the Nelson data platform. It is connected with all things and is increasingly finding a very significant use for us as we democratize our ability to drop in new applications, hardware and software, into our overall network of military capability. The detail is not really relevant, but the Nelson data platform, it's accredited. It's going faster and cheaper than we ever did before. We have in some ways kind of inverted our relationship with industry by doing this. We own the tech stack. We don't want anybody else's tech stack. We will only go after your stuff if it is Nelson compliant, and you can build in our ecosystem, unless for some reason it was exquisitely amazing and we really did need to go and have to invest in a separate tech stack. Not really after that. We have spent enough of our own money, thanks, building our own tech stack. What we need your tech stack to do, or your products, is to be able to interface with our world, and we will help you have a soft landing there. So hopefully it's a win-win for you in terms of getting to work with us. We are also moving into cloud. So we have Nelson Data Hosting, which is UK MOD's first secret cloud, going live very soon in UK, and Nelson Data Deployed, which is our edge cloud, which is going into a growing series of classes of ships, so that the Nelson data platform can be ubiquitous across the fleet and with the Marines ashore, and therefore we can connect noughts and ones and apps and update as we see fit. As I've mentioned, we have agreed standards. These are out of government digital service, so they are very GDS pure. These are MOD's leading digital standards. Defence Digital are going to be using these to make the Defence Digital ones, and we are closely partnering with the US Navy, US Marines, because we have the best set of these so far, and something to keep an attention to if this is your world. Of course, this allows us to do things such as this. This is just very generic, but it allows us to have conversations around how we build the overall architecture of our digital future in a way that we never used to before, because we had to live with what we bought on a platform for many years to come, or wait for defence to provide a grand solution. We are now very much owning our own digital future in collaboration with Defence Digital and industry, of course. This is just a worked example. So in the Littoral Strike Commando Forces perspective, we can plug and play, work out shape where we need to go after against a backlog, and then prioritize what we need to improve in this overall design. Down at a tactical level, some of this is deliberately grayed out, but down at strike company level inside the commando force, that means we can now plug and play hardware such as radios, and when a new radio comes along that's better than the old radio, we'll dump the old one and we'll throw the new one in. And we get to own that future, not some behemoth of a defense program. A challenge for us and for you is, how do we make the best out of Nelson as a defense platform and our autonomy approach, whilst bringing the best of industry in without just swerving and pivoting on to giving all of our money to a new non-traditional defense prime perhaps, and then we get stuck down another way of behaving. So we want the best of these sorts of technologies. There are many others out there. There's just a few examples. We need these things in our system, but we don't necessarily, we think, want to turn around and invest all of our eggs in one basket for one solution. So the money will be spread around. Marworks is our comms accelerator down in Plymouth, based in Stonehouse Barracks, and we'll be happily to take your engagements if you are into advanced comms techniques, the use of ATAC, plugins, various pathways through denied and challenging communications environments. And NavyX is our Robot Wars team. They are iterating with all of these sorts of technologies and are expanding in an initiative ongoing in Portland with the Dorset LEP, which will be potentially using a site near Heliop, so a runway the size of an aircraft carrier next to water spaces to use. But that doesn't mean we aren't going to be using South Coast exercise areas off Plymouth, Plymouth Sound, Smart Sound, Oceans Gate, and everybody there as well, with the Marworks team and the operators and much of the fleet, and indeed over in Plymouth. It's just another node in our ecosystem. So the Commando Force has a zoom out vision. It looks a bit like this, SF- at scale. And it has been iterating its way towards this with a rapid set of test and experimentation exercises. I don't have time to show you the Autonomous Advanced Force 3 video, but it's on LinkedIn if you're interested in searching for that, which gives you the update of what state of the art in autonomy and multi-domain integration looks like in UK defence. We're interested in lethality as well. Tactical precision strike weaponry is something I would just draw your attention to in the top left-hand corner. These are cheaper than Javelin anti-tank missiles. They go for 30 miles, they go for an hour, and they operate in all environments and can take on all targets. We can buy these things in America and we can buy these things in Israel, but we currently cannot buy these things in UK. UK defence needs to work on not being squeamish about weaponising its autonomous systems. We need these things if we are going to survive and fight and be successful in today's modern challenging environment, and we would commend that sort of thinking to you. There are lots of other things that we are investing in post the integrated review in terms of ballistic missile defence, surface-to-surface guided weaponry, laser-directed energy weapons, and others. And there are some up arrows going on in a significant way across Navy lethality. The Commando Force is not the only one that's changing. The Future Maritime Aviation Force, the FMAF, is also moving from a crewed to an uncrewed view. And we will be moving from crewed helicopters and air assets to uncrewed ones. Here's some of the smaller stuff. We have some bigger plans, which we will be revealing in the next few months, around how we are seeking to go after loyal wingmen for F-35s at the large scale, at a smaller scale, and a medium scale in between the two. And all of these things, including in the undersea space, are going to be put together through something called the Naval Strike Network. This is the tin and the string and the AI that is going to allow a payload agnostic, vendor agnostic, plug and play system of robot wars that can reach out and touch people at a time and place of our choosing. Here are a couple of the examples. This is the Mad Fox on the left-hand side, owned by NavyX, which is a USV, which we will be weaponizing this year, as well as doing reconnaissance and autonomous navigation with it. as a test bed for how we go and scale from here. And on the right-hand side is the Southwest's very own M-Subs, extra large UUV Royal Navy project, which we are investing in heavily and have exciting prospects for it and all things like it going forwards. But there is a challenge in us, of course, in the fact that we find it difficult to create things and scale them in one go. Here is a lightweight torpedo. It's 200 kilos on, sorry, 300 kilos on a drone. This one happens to be from the UK Malloy company, and this variation is only capable of lifting 200 kilos. So it's a bit of a necky minimum viable product, but it's got our taste buds going, and we're trying to work out how we can create and invent new technologies such as this that we need to solve our problems, but at the same time not get caught in the valley of death and be able to scale. So to get after that creating and scaling problem, bringing stuff from low TRL straight into the hands of the warfighter, we have created the RN Heavy Lift Challenge. This is out there on the MOD procurement website at the invitation to tender phase. And we are currently inviting industry of all flavors to come and show us their wares in the marinized 300 kilo objective lifting drone space. What we will do here is that, having gone through sourcing and curating, we will now be incubating these technologies with grant funding, which will come from my office in the some hundreds of Ks, low hundreds of Ks, for successful winners at a fly-off event in Predannick, Cornwall, Royal Naval Air Station, Culdrose, whereby we will look at your offering and see whether we think it needs, is worthy of staying inside the competition. If you are successful, you get some time to go away and improve your offering further still, come back for a fly-off event 2 and get into lot 2. Provided we get 2 companies who get into lot 2 with a minimum viable products worth of credible drone that can lift significant loads for significant periods of time and work in our naval strike network at sea, and there are lots of challenges to that from a technological perspective, of course, then we will be able to do a paper sift, down select and scale into lot 3 without pause up to a total value of £20 million. This is super exciting. This is not being done in MOD hitherto, that we are aware of outside of urgent capability requirement type space activity. DNS, Future Capability Group, and ourselves have collaborated on developing this. We're both pretty stoked about it. We, I'm sure, have got a lot to learn, but we are expecting this to show some significant dividend, not just for this particular challenge, but for all forms of technological acceleration. Why wouldn't we do everything through here, including additive manufacturing, including augmented reality, and others? One of a number of routes, I'm sure, but hopefully is welcome to your ears. Now, in addition to heavy drones, we're also moving to something called Navy pods. This is our ability to spread ISO container 20-foot style pods around the fleet, connect them via the Nelson data platform, and then enable us to upgrade faster, cheaper, better our technological capabilities across the fleet in mission module bays, in Type 26s, in Type 31s, in future USVs, in the auxiliaries, on the amphib platforms, on the offshore patrol vessels, and with the Commando Force ashore in a distributed network of things. These are some of the ideas of things that we might put inside these boxes. This year, we are putting £1 million on creating the first 4 MVPs against these flavors. Not fully endorsed yet, but the Q class, if you remember World War I, HMS warships, pretending to be merchantmen fighting U-boats, where U-boats had to surface to engage. Flaps came down, warship appeared, a bad day for the U-boat, Q class. If you have offerings in these spaces, please do get in touch. London Tech Bridge. The US Navy, US Marines run a series of tech bridges across continental US. They have 12 hitherto. The 13th and newest and only international one is the London Tech Bridge. It is importantly co-led by the Royal Navy. I have a Navy commander who is the co-lead in there with a US Navy commander. Their job is to bring the market and the problems across the pond and bring things closer. So London Tech Bridge, for example, will be at the Heavy Lift Drone Challenge. They will be involved in Navy pods. They're involved in the Defence Battle Lab Maritime, Autonomous Advanced 4 exercises with the Commando Force and more, and vice versa. And we are looking at what they're doing in America. And indeed, the team are in the US as we speak, going around the US tech bridges. A summary slide then of a high protein few minutes from me. We have the Royal Navy Agility Programme. Hopefully that is welcome. You need to behave and speak in the same sort of language increasingly with us, please. We are digitising via the Navy, the Nelson Data Platform. We are automating via the Naval Strike Network. We are scaling the Commando Force now and also, of course, the Autonomous Mine Hunting Programme, MHC, with an obvious footprint in the southwest. We are weaponising our UXV, no longer good enough just to fly around and look at stuff or float around and look at stuff. We need to reach out and touch people. That's why we exist, please. We are doing the same trick as we've done with the Commando Force, with the Fleet Air Arm via the FMAF and the Submarine Force via the FSF. London Tech Bridge Defence Battle Lab, Heavy Lift Drone Challenge. Cross-Sector Tech Challenge is a £10 million crowd-funded effort between ourselves, BP, Oil and Gas and Renewables, which has been sponsored by Innovate UK and Bays. That's now in the down select phase, and some winners there will win some significant volumes of money to iterate some dual-use technologies where we can both, in the energy sector and in the defence sector, hopefully win-win. In my team, we have established MOD's first venture capital arm in Octo Ventures, where we have 5 million to invest this year. We are seeking to bring VC and CVC to the defence and the dual-use market, and to bridge the divide with defence innovation funding and normal grant funding perspectives. Next steps, there's a whole series of technologies there that we are particularly interested in. If you are too, let us know. And hopefully from today, we have tried to prove the point that we are trying to get better at being a cross-functional team, both inside and outside of the military, inside government, outside government, nationally and internationally, academia, startups, SMEs, primes, and others. Luckily, I have a small team, and should you wish for any more on any of that, then please do get in touch with me if you think it's appropriate, or probably more usefully for you. If it's about a specific thing, then you'll get a faster response and probably a more sensible response out of Alex if you email him here. He's my Mr. Future Tech, and he will know who to put you in touch with, whether that's Navy Pods or Heavy Lift Drone Challenges or London Tech Bridge, Commando Force or FMAF or anything else like that. Nelson, Alex will be your guy who will put you straight. Thank you very much for your time. Hopefully that has been of some interest to this audience. It is much appreciated that you have given me this moment to just pass on some of the things that we are doing. We've got lots to learn, but hopefully I've been able to impart on you that there is a lot going on inside the Royal Navy already. Very happy when we get to Q&A, which is where we move to next, to take any and all questions about the Royal Navy and how we are embracing tech and innovation. Thank you very much for your time.
Well, I'm sure you'll agree there's plenty to think about from our first two guests at this year's Marine Tech Expo, and I'm delighted to say we're able to put some of your questions to our guests in this first Q&A session of the day. Joining us first of all is Richard May, who's Head of Oceans Gate and Marine Investment for Plymouth City Council, and I'm delighted to say we also have Brigadier Dan Cheeseman with us. Lots of questions for both of you, and Richard, if I could come to you first of all, one question that's come in this morning regarding the comments that you were making in your talk earlier on. This says, won't local manufacturers be hindered by duty exemption prohibition clauses contained within several trade agreements, effectively negating the advantage of the free zone, specifically the continuity trade agreements negotiated with the 23 countries to date?
Well, you know, it's we're still working with HMRC in terms of the actual duties and the tax benefits for the free zones. But I think when we're looking at our sort of priority nations that we want to woo and bring on in terms of our free port, we will be looking at those nations that get maximum benefit as part of the whole portfolio of trade agreements that the UK is making. So it's still something that we're working through. But I think that what we've got to realise is that there are certain components that will come into the UK and be used in our manufacturing process, specific into the marine defence and space sectors, that will have a tariff, and even with those trade agreements, there'll be some that will come in and benefit us in terms of our manufacturing process. But I think that we must be aware of the fact that the major effort here is that we have the tax side incentives, so the structures and buildings allowance. So that means that you can reduce your corporation tax over a 10-year cycle rather than a 33-year cycle when you're doing new builds and renovations, etc. And also in terms of your enhanced capital allowance, those plant and machinery that you're going to put into your new manufacturing plants, etc., can be written down in the year of spend. So those are the really key benefits for the free zone in terms of tax incentives. So that's what we need to focus on. That's what we need to really look at. As well as bringing on the new jobs of tomorrow, where the government's looking at no employers' national insurance contributions for 3 years for those that staff under 25,000. So there's some fantastic incentives. It's not just about tariffs in terms of duties and VAT. It's the others as well. But for us, it's about making those super clusters and really making sure that we've got strong synergies. We're supporting the supply chain that's already indigenous to the local area, and bringing on new opportunities for them, new significant players who are providing more investment, more jobs.
I've got lots more questions for you, Richard, but I want to bring in Dan Cheeseman at this point, Chief Technology Officer to the Navy Board. And Dan, fascinating insight into some of the technology that's currently in development, the technology that may be coming down the line in the next few years within the Royal Navy. But on a business point, a question that's come in similar to the one I've just put to Richard. When choosing and procuring new equipment, do you prioritise UK suppliers? So in a nutshell, do you prefer to buy British where you can?
It's a great question. So in principle and morally and politically, you would say yes. But of course, our commercial practices are governed by regulation, so we must ensure a free and fair competition at all times. But I think I would not flip the question, but in attempting to answer it, we want to buy British, but we also are beholden to buy the best. So British, just because it's British, isn't good enough for me and my brothers and sisters out there globally, is it? And I'm sure you would agree. So it has to be competitive. And I'll give you the challenge, which is there are companies out there globally, such as Anduril in California, VC-backed. It's got a pop star CEO. They talk the right language. They talk software. They show what they are intending. They are under-promising and over-delivering. And the challenge for UK industry is to be as cool, as attractive as an Anduril in some of the things that the Royal Navy is working at. Now, the great news is there are plenty of companies who are in that space. And what we are doing, therefore, to wend our way through that is that we are not keeping our eyes shut to the best of tech in the US or Israel or somewhere else, Australia, doing every opportunity for Britons to fight hard and to win those contracts. And some of our activities have been designed to particularly stimulate the UK competitiveness in achieving that.
How much of a factor, though, is security in terms of dealing with overseas companies? Because clearly, with so much tech involved in the future modern Royal Navy, you've got to be mindful constantly of the security threats. We know how uncomfortable a lot of people feel about Chinese technology being used in domestic everyday technology. So how do you ensure security within the Royal Navy? Yeah,
it's a really good question. It's a bit like, how do we stimulate the market full stop? So we are LinkedIn, are we not? And if we don't publicize videos and post on what we're doing, then we are not stimulating the market. If we don't support initiatives such as this conference, Ocean's Gate, and others to keep up. And the fact that your minimum threshold to deal with some of the things that we're talking about is likely to be security clearance, so SC clearance, the basic level of trustworthiness. And for UK companies, that's much easier to achieve than it is for internationals. In fact, you might be a big, exciting American company, but if you can't get over those low-level security hurdles, if you can't get the approvals to work with us, then that will also be difficult. So it's a real challenge, but yes, in that sense, that does favour the British market.
Lots more questions for you still to come, Dan, but I want to come back to Richard at OceansGate just for the moment, because I wanted you to expand for us on the proposition that OceansGate is providing, Richard. Just give us a bit more of an insight.
Well, we started a few years ago in terms of 3 phases of development at OceansGate. Phase 1 and 2 have now been completed. That's providing innovation space, so offices, but mostly industrial units. And we're pleased to know that the industrial units are all now fully let, and some very significant marine tech businesses going into those units. But I think we now get to the exciting piece where phase 3, which is down at the dock side, which is the larger piece of land, where we have 3 docks, 160 metre, 140 metre, 80 metre docks that have deep water access. Indeed, they have 4 or 5 metres even at medium-low tides. And they're 16-metre access when they're at high tide. So fantastic facilities for bringing on innovation where larger vessels need to come in and be tested and fitted out, etc. Transforming vessels with the new technologies that we're advancing within the rest of the OceansGate facility. We have plans to build a proper innovation centre at OceansGate, which allows for us to aggregate all those different players who have project teams working on the things that we have in focus. And we also want to develop a prototyping centre so that we're designing and building and prototyping the vessels of tomorrow, be they submersives or surface vessels. And again, you heard earlier about the Ocean Futures focus on clean propulsion, looking at the solutions in terms of clean propulsion. So we're very keen to get some anchor tenants and also some prime tenants that will be in those spaces of our focus and locating them in OceansGate, which is now part of the Freeport. So all those incentives you heard me mention earlier are now available to those that will take plots in OceansGate, build out new facilities with the most tax efficient and incentivized environment. So we're really quite excited now that we can suddenly get OceansGate complete.
Clearly some very exciting developments here already, but a huge potential for much more. And you mentioned in your presentation the 5G test bed, but what happens after the 12-month trial finishes? Will that be extended?
Well, we're looking for funding to extend it. I think the uptake has been tremendous. We announced within our own sort of network of businesses that we work with the solution. Within probably 2 or 3 weeks, we had 25 use case applications come forward, some really stellar ones, some really exciting ones. And therefore, I think the demand is definitely there for further connectivity over the 12-month test window. So we'll look for funding as part of our Ocean Futures spending review request. And hopefully it becomes a permanent test bed. I think that the thing we'd also like to do is to extend its range. So at the moment, there's just 2 test beds, one either side of the breakwater in Plymouth, and the other one under Jenny Cliff in Smart Sound for us to do our testers and prototype proving. But we'd like to do longer range offshore, and so we'll be looking at solutions of that too.
Dan Cheeseman, let me bring you back in at this point. And before I put another question to you that's come in this morning, I just wanted to ask your thoughts on what's happening here in Plymouth and some of the things that Richard has outlined. How much of a role will the sort of testing and the development of technology going on here in Plymouth play in the future of the Royal Navy?
Yeah, thank you. It's a great question and really important. So how are we supposed to accelerate the market? How are we supposed to get after the technology? How are we supposed to close that gap between the zoom out vision and the zoom in doing stuff? One of the many strands to that is to create an ecosystem of companies and academics and locations where we can do some of that rapid experimentation. We are developing an ecosystem of those things, those hubs, and just to be completely transparent, Portsmouth is going to play a fundamental role. We have the Nelson AI Accelerator there, and we have the home base really of the bulk of the Royal Navy. I know there's tension there, but that's where HQ lives. And there's a certain logic as to why that's why it's important. We are investing in Dorset with the Defence Battle Lab there. It's a coming together of various elements of defence, and I wouldn't see that as particularly competitive to Plymouth. There, I happen to be speaking to you from the Dorset Innovation Park, hence my talking to you all today. Apologies on a mobile phone. Just about got a signal. They don't have very good 4G, so you're ahead there. You had to borrow somebody else's phone. So we're investing there in Portland with water access and land access. But in the southwest, there really is nothing that compares with the South Coast exercise areas. The Bradanic Airfield with RNAS Culdrose is the only corridor that we have direct access to for UAS, for flying drones. We have, obviously, Devonport as a significant facility. There is the wonderful ecosystem of companies there, many of whom represented in this expo that you will have been alluding to already, but the Thaleses and the M-Subs of the world. And we have Marworks, our comms accelerator in Stonehouse Barracks. So we have big plans for Devonport. We are looking at relocations within the area. We're looking at infrastructure investments in terms of where the Marines might live. We are investing in the base itself. We are looking at submarine facilities in terms of servicing and maintenance. And there's obviously the arrival of significant new classes of ships into the Royal Navy in the Type 31s and the Type 26s and then into the new class of Thunderbird 2s, the amphibs and the support shipping, which we'll be moving to in the next few years. So there's lots going on, and Plymouth is a very obvious, logical place for us to operate, isn't it? It's easy access to protected water space with the advent of ocean sound, the 5G network, the ability to get out to the big sea, not just little sea, but big sea and uncluttered sea is unsurpassed. And so there's lots that we need the Plymouth and the Devon Cornwall area for.
Watching your presentation earlier on, it struck me that huge excitement and developments in technology are going to move things forward quite significantly. But I was just wondering where the people of the Royal Navy and our armed forces fit into all that. And on that point, a question has come in saying, having all the toys is one thing, but recruitment is becoming a problem. We have more commanders than posts. How are you going to rebalance the force and keep recruitment numbers up without dropping standards?
Okay, well, I'll refute more commanders than posts. We are the most lean service in UK defence. We have just killed 40% of our two-star admirals and generals. And there aren't many one-stars around like me either. Everybody, I can assure you, is working a lot harder individually than they ever used to, perhaps. There are no times off, and we do all work Friday afternoons now. Defence is changed markedly from what you might remember, and certainly the Royal Navy is leading that charge. We are trying to de-link rank with pay. We are bringing industrial secondees into our organisation. We are focusing on upskilling. There's many initiatives going on, which I'll spare you from the detail of today. But the people transformation one has 156 strands of activity going on in terms of modernising how we are. We are teaching entrepreneurial skills. We are teaching lean startup. We're teaching Scrum. We are sending people away to secondments with industry. And we are empowering our people down at unit level to have their own budgets, to hire and fire their own staff and their own people, to shape and shift how they do their business. So they are budget holders, and no longer centrally controlled from a nameless, faceless bureaucrat in Navy HQ, but we're all the way down to the stations and the bases. And Culdrose is the first pilot for that, and that's leading defence. So there's lots of change going on, and tech is not the problem. Tech is whatever. Tech is whatever you can make it. Tech is obviously can solve any problem that you're after. The difficulty, of course, in our change is, are our people the right people? Are their training solutions the right training solutions? Can they keep up? It's got to be idiot-proof, not because we are idiots, but because 3 o'clock in the morning when it's cold and rainy and you're scared, you've got to be able to focus on the task in hand and not on fiddling with the tech. But that's a given with all product these days. If you don't make product like that, you won't be selling it. We are not. Recruitment is an interesting one. With the advent of social media and the like, then people do like being fully connected, and you don't necessarily get being fully connected all the time in service. But at the moment, and through COVID, we have actually increased our throughput. We are changing our training pathways, and actually our numbers have gone up. So recruitment is not the biggest concern of ours at the moment. And indeed, whilst it doesn't happen in the short term, because we are not naive enough to think that automation and digitization suddenly means a massive down arrow in the people you need. At the moment, it's an additive, because until you've got something that can replace what went before, you need to find extra people to do that before you can then start weaning off. Then there is a direction of travel there. And I think that we see that globally. We are looking for more super soldiers, super sailors, are we not, in humanity going forward because of the technology? And we are aiming in that direction. I think we're relatively well set. So far, none of the new tech that we have brought in terms of our experimentation, has in any way overfaced our people down to the lowest level, maybe at the senior levels, like mine, but certainly the lowest levels, people are all over it.
You referenced earlier in your speech Elon Musk, and there was quite a focus on a very business-like approach to delivering the Royal Navy, and there may be some watching who will feel uncomfortable with that. How do you help people to reconcile the traditional side of providing our armed forces with bringing in a much more rigorous business approach to things?
Yeah, so I did say, thank you. I did use that example, and I use it unashamedly. So we are a £7 billion business rising, as I've said, and that language is being used deliberately because, as those on this call will know far better than I, if you are not value for money, if you're not market leading, you are dead. You're finished. You are living on borrowed time. No sacred cows in our organisation. Everything has to justify itself based on its organisation. And I can reassure you that whether the first Sea Lord happens to be a surface fleet operator, or the second Sea Lord happens to be a submariner, or I happen to be a Royal Marine, and everybody else who's involved in these things, it doesn't matter. All that matters is, are you going to add to the operational competitive advantage of the Royal Navy on the global stage? And are you taking a soup to nuts design thinking approach? So as we're looking at the Future Maritime Aviation Force, the FMAF initiative, the Fleet Air Arm lives or dies on the point of it, not on the fact that it exists. So the fact that we might have X hundred engineers or chief POs doing this, or pilots think this is very important, or we have got a number of sunk costs into something in terms of a platform that we have invested in. It's an irrelevant conversation when we are sitting down to have a zoom out vision about where we want to go and then a zoom in about getting after it. So I hope that reassures people in the fact that we're not throwing out tradition. We're not throwing out why people fight, on the fact that why people serve and why the nation. We're not being cavalier because we've just suddenly invented or inherited a bunch of business speak that we think we sound clever with. We believe that this is value add. We understand these terms now, and this is all being done so that we can actually apply ourselves to the job at hand, which of course is the controlled application of extreme violence, which is not a very nice phrase out there, but to reassure anybody out there as to why we think we exist, that's why we're here, and that's what we're focused on. We happen to be using some business approaches, such as trying to emulate the best of out there, such as the Elons and the Sir Richards even maybe, in terms of going faster, cheaper, better.
I want to pick up on some of the key areas of threat with you in a moment, where those threats may be coming from and how technology can help deal with them. I want to bring Richard back in at this point, because you mentioned, Richard, digital solutions, and I just wonder how far that extends beyond the maritime sector. Are there opportunities for the creative industry sector to be involved as well?
You know, totally. And actually, we're already partnering with Rio and the new market hall just around the corner from Ocean's Gate, as they bring on digital sort of solutions that are, you know, in some ways outside the marine defence area. I think actually when Brigadier was just saying about, you know, don't want to be fiddling with tech, it's all about those solution adoption, intuitive applications. So the actual marine tech or defence tech could be, you know, obviously very difficult to understand. So it needs to have proper interfaces so that there's proper user experiences. And so the creative industry is really quite fundamental as well to have in play. So we will be bringing on those as part of our mix as we bring on those three sectors that we're focused on.
So from creative industries then, what about space tech? A question has just come in for you. How's OceanSkate embracing space tech?
Well, I mean, we're so fortunate to have Spaceport Cornwall in the Southwest Peninsula, and now to be able to put satellites up and launch satellites from the UK and here in the Southwest. So I think as we look at the Freezone, and we heard earlier about some components that come into our manufacturing process. Well, when you look at satellite technology, a lot of components are from overseas, and so the Freezone will allow us to manufacture those in an efficient manner, take them down to the spaceport and get them up into space. But it does mean then that the downstream applications in terms of space, be that marine or defence, we need to make sure that we've got a good overlap, that the three sectors work very closely together. And innovation is always done at the edge of sectors. It's not necessarily done in sectors so much. And so blending is really key. So if you have those three sectors, along with obviously an enabling creative sector, I think we've really got something very special.
Dan, bringing you back in, a couple of specifically technical points, and forgive me, I'm not totally familiar with all the acronyms, so you'll be able to explain perhaps what they are as well. One question for you. How does the Royal Navy link up with the DASA or DASA and the innovations that the DASA are supporting?
That's a great question. So DASA is the Defence and Security Accelerator. It's part funded by the MOD and from the MOD's perspective is owned and governed by the Defence Innovation Unit and Director of Defence Innovation. So there we are, three more TLAs for you. Their job really is to issue focused calls for things that Defence might be after, and also have an open book for people who think they've got some solutions for Defence to go towards to get some grant funding. One of the challenges that DASA, I think, will openly admit to date, I suspect this is where the conversation is coming from, is that government is not normally very good at working out what to do once it's grant funded something to get from technological readiness levels, TRLs 1 to 3, all the way through to 9, i.e. ready for people like me to use on the front line. We are very close to DASA. DASA has a liaison officer inside the Development Directorate inside the Royal Navy. So we talk to the lady in question all the time. We partner with them closely through NavyX, and they are conversing around what they've seen and what DASA might be supporting. And certainly DASA bids, if you are looking to bid into DASA for an open call, and this is one of the methodologies you can go after getting some grant funding, your chances of getting some resource are significantly enhanced if you're able to get a sponsor from the Royal Navy or the rest of Defence on your form. So please do get in touch with ourselves if that is you. The bigger challenge is, okay, so what? I think maybe 80 million, 100 million so far has been spent by DASA. The challenge is getting across the valley of death. How do we get the things that keen and innovative and energetic startups and SMEs are after in UK industry? How do we get them to get some beyond grant funding from DASA into the hands of the big contracts where the Royal Navy or the rest of Defence might come in and fund those? That's where my Octo Office of the CTO Ventures arm comes in, my venture capital team. So we might be able to help you bridge that conversation with venture capital proper out there in the city or globally, and CVC corporate venture capital. So we are looking to try and bring ourselves closer together through DASA and other grant fundings, which go on through into that. London Tech Bridge I mentioned as well, the Office of Naval Research Global for the US Navy, US Marines. We're partnered with there in London. Again, they exist to do grant funding, but now we're both looking at how we can bridge that gap into larger scale contracts. And then I think I mentioned the heavy lift drone challenge. This is not so much about heavy lift drones. This is about the new commercial model, the RAPSO model that DNS are now calling it, DNS FCG, Rapid Acquisition production and scaling for operations, I think it's called. And RAPSO is this funnel, this DARPA-like funnel of a wide inject of companies in the front end, and then grant funding, and then straight through to scaling without recompete. So we are trying to get through those things with new models. I may have gone too far over on what the initial intent of the conversation was, but hopefully that's of interest. So we are close with DASA, and we are working with them intimately to try and work out how we can make their money and our money go faster and further.
Okay, another acronym coming up now. BEST, this is a question that's come in for you. Best of tech and the under-promise, over-deliver environment is great. US dual usage brings ITAR, ITAR into play when MOD mandate, no ITAR. Do you agree that focus on UK PLC is still key?
I absolutely do. So as I mentioned before, we do see things out there, like I'll mention it again. If you want to see really cool, very flashy, very well branded, very well backed with funding, tech out there that does have our attention, it's companies like Anduril. UK companies need to compete and behave like that. If you are not scrumming, if you're not doing sprinting, if you don't have backlogs, if you don't have an open architecture, if you're not prepared to work on cross-functional teams and collaborate with us and iterate with us going forward, then you will struggle to get our attention. 6 to 9 months, not 6 to 9 years, as I mentioned. US companies and dual use companies that come with ITAR are definitely a low wire entanglement, to use a marine technology. They're a trip hazard for us all, and they're not something that we like to go particularly near because they do slow us down. The US DoD's ITAR regulations are an interesting conversation and worthy a whole expo in their own right in terms of why they exist, and some of it is to be transparent, some of it is to protect US IP, and some of it is to also enable ingestion of IP into the US system. The solution to that is, as I say, is to have good UK industry, then therefore we don't need to go there. Dual use is an interesting conversation though as well. Dual use is fine, but we're only really interested surely if we're into an investment terms in market capitalization rate, market cap, aren't we? So what is the growth that a company might have? And I don't personally care whether you're a dual use tech company or a mill use only tech company. If your market cap is likely to be high, then you are worth investment in, are you not? Because you will return a dividend to our investment. So for my venture capital arm, I don't have to go after dual use only. We can go after mill use only as well, and that will help us. Traditionally, we don't go after IP, do we? It's an interesting conversation that we don't have quite all of the answers to at the moment. But we are helping some companies develop their products for global exports very closely. And there are some who might suggest that is somewhat naive of us. If we're going to collaborate with you this closely, why should we just give you all our time and effort for free, and then you able to take that away? But clearly we don't want to squash industry either. So we're just having a little think about how that might work. Ploughshare's innovations out of the Defence Science and Technology Lab are the sort of MOD lead on that conversation. It's nothing to be feared. And in the venture capital world that we've got, we are talking about taking stakes in companies if we give you some of our time and our money. That's fair. It's just another arrow in our quiver to try and stimulate the market. So ITAR and IP, both great conversations, both very high up in my list of things to consider, but I don't think that they are a trip hazard in terms of UK SMEs getting involved in the UK growth in technology at this time.
We're running out of time, so I'll rattle through a couple more questions that have come in. One here that says, what about the IMO regulation change and adaptation of unmanned naval ships? Even merchant ships have many problems adapting autonomous systems. What is the possible roadmap?
Yes, so impediments to progress are many, and one of them is organizational nervousness about uncrewing things that then may go awry, and who is then legally culpable for whatever happens. We had a bit of an issue with an uncrewed jet ski a little while ago. We didn't quite have the right kill switch, not quite sure where it was, doesn't really matter. So it zoomed off a little bit faster than we'd intended, and it bashed into a bit of a yacht. No yachty was hurt in the process, thankfully. That has precipitated a long conversation around how we might do better in going forwards, because we cannot just say, no, this can't happen, it's all too dangerous, there's too much duty holding risk, the international regulations don't allow it, etc. The only way you change these rules and regulations is by embracing this change and taking these things head on. One of the reasons why we are working with jet suits, jump marines, is not so much the tech itself, but more the fact that it's the ultimate pipe cleaner for how we might consider new technologies like this. What are the rules and regulations that keep us appropriately safe and legally safe, but more importantly, our people and operators and anybody near us safe, but equally not to be constrained by these things, because it's unacceptable to turn up on a modern battlefield without these things if the other side has taken a different approach and they end up turning up that they have them. If you turn up on a battlefield and the other side have sharks with laser beams, is the sort of colloquial phrase, and you don't have sharks with laser beams because you're worried about the sharks and you're worried about the laser beams, it's too late. So we're having to try and really push the boundaries as to what is deemed safe, what's deemed appropriate, if we are of the belief that actually this is the way we must and need to go to maintain competitive advantage. So not an easy route, but we are pressing on. Navy X doing some great experimentation with surface vessels and underwater vessels as well.
You've given us an amazing insight into some of the exciting things going on within the Royal Navy and the wider armed forces. Thank you very much indeed to Brigadier Dan Cheeseman. Richard, thank you also for giving us an insight into some of the things happening in Plymouth at Oceans Gate and the wider southwest as well. Thank you both for joining us at Marine Tech Expo 2021. And that brings to an end this first session of Marine Tech Expo from Oceans Gate in Plymouth, but much more to come after this short break. And we were talking to Brigadier Dan Cheeseman there about defence, and we'll be looking much more at defence in the next part of the Expo, in particular mine countermeasures and communications in the undersea battle space. That's coming up again in 15 minutes.